Hey there, welcome to Bead Biz. We have some lovely designers here who are going to chat with us this evening. We have Michele Bernstein, who you might know better as PDX Knitter. We have Linda Dean, who is the outgoing, he says happily, outgoing head of the Crochet Guild of America. And Linda Dean, we have Laurinda Reddig, who is a fabulous crochet designer from the West Coast. And we have Davli, who is an amazing designer, all here with us to talk about all sorts of fun stuff. So why don't we let them introduce themselves first? Michele, you want to start? Introduce yourself. Are you there, Michele? Do we have Michele?
I didn't realize you were talking to me. Okay. Hi, I'm Michele Bernstein. I didn't realize I had to have a little cam thing, so let me think about what I want to tell you. I design and knit and teach in Portland, Oregon, and my website is pdxkniteratti.com. When I started my business, I wanted my website to be kniteratti.com, and I went online, and somebody else already owned that. So I took the Portland, Oregon airport code, put it on the front of Kniteratti, and I am PDX Kniteratti. I love designing accessories, mostly because my three favorite words, gauge, not critical. And I like embellishing things with special techniques and beads and lace and right now brioche. Brioche is one of my favorite things. And that's me. I pass it to Laurinda.
All right. I'm Laurinda Reddig, and I'm just over the river from Portland, from Michele, so we do some projects together. I'm the crochet designer, and Michele and I actually met designing the mystery crochet along shawl for the Portland Yarn Crawl several years ago in 2014, and then together we designed the Nymphaea shawls for Bead Biz. Just, what was it, 3 years ago? And I also run the Fixed Stitches Yarns Crochet Kit Club, and I get to work with lots of different indie yarn dyers. This is my wall of hand-dyed yarns that inspire me to come up with designs that go along with stories that all work together into a kit club that we send out every 3 months, and we've been doing that. This is our 5th anniversary this year. So
that comes with a book, doesn't it?
What's that?
That comes with a book,
yes,
right?
It comes with stories, with the novel, with the kits, and then I also do crochet retreats under ReCrochetaions, crochet retreats and in the fall we've been doing retreats with Michele so that they're knit and crochet, and we'll do a shawl together. But for this year, I think we're taking the year off of retreats, but next year we'll be back strong.
Hey, Linda, you want to talk?
Sure. Seems like we're keeping this a lot of West Coast because I'm just outside Sacramento. So evening, it's still afternoon for me. So as Jean was saying, I'm the outgoing current president of the Crochet Guild of America. I've got 5 weeks left, not that I'm counting or anything, but it's been an interesting 4.5 years on the board and a 2.5-year term as president. I've been designing since I sold my first design in 2011. And I have been actively doing that since, but I've been teaching a lot longer than that. So I teach locally, I teach nationally. I also host retreats in my local community. And we're like actually starting to open up a little bit so I can start doing social distancing retreats, which is actually starting on the calendar again. So that's nice. It's nice to actually see people and not just my kids. That could be the drawback. I design a little bit of everything and anything. It's kind of, I pick up the yarn and it tells me what it wants to be. So it never gets narrowed down that I'm only in one pigeonhole. So with that, I'll turn it over to Anna because I love hearing her stories.
Well, thank you. So hi, I'm Anna. I guess I'm the East Coast person along with Jean here. So I'm in Ottawa, Canada. I design, well, I'm knit and Knag designs. I design a lot of lace shawls, you know, just as we heard earlier here, gauge not critical is really key here. But I also really do a lot of mystery knit alongs. So I got started with that back in, I think 2009 with mystery knit alongs because I joined one and it was really fun. I mean, I didn't particularly love the finished piece, but I really enjoyed the process. And when that was finished, I thought, I need to find another one of these to join, and I couldn't. And I thought, oh well, you know, I'll make one myself. Maybe someone will join me. I was hoping for maybe 20 knitters would sign up for my new Mystery Knit Along. I mean, no one had ever heard of me. And I was a little shocked because I got 1,400 people who signed up for it.
Wow.
And then it just sort of kept going from there. I finished that one. I thought, well, that was really fun. Let's make another one. And well, here we are in 2020, and I'm not done making Mystery Knit Along. In the meantime, I've also written a bunch of books with lace patterns and how to design your own lace shawls and so on. So yeah, a little bit of everything. And I met Jean. She contacted me and asked me if I wanted to design their Rhinebeck knitting shawl. And if you see it, yes, she's pointing at it. It's right in front of her there. The Peace, Love, and Knitting shawl is also created in honor of the Woodstock 50th anniversary. I'm making another shawl for Rhinebeck this year, even though there's no Rhinebeck this year. So I'm hoping for a virtual Rhinebeck. What do you say, Jean?
It'll be virtual Rhinebeck. They already announced it. We have no clue what it looks like, but there will be virtual Rhinebeck.
And there will be a shawl.
And there will be a shawl.
That's right.
I am Jean. I am one of the owners of Bead Biz. I also design. I can move it out a little bit. There's my current design, which is an adorable little beaded shawlette. And if you don't know already, we're doing a knit along in a collaboration with 100 Ravens. They're providing the yarn, we're providing the beads, I provide the pattern, and that will be starting at the end of the month. I'll put a link down over wherever it is. I don't know if it's over that way or down that way, but somewhere there will be a link if you are interested in joining the knit along for that. But right now I'd like to talk a little bit about the designers and so how do you guys get? Just jump in anytime now, or I'll call on you.
One of the reasons I've been having so much fun with the Kit Club is because I have these stories to inspire me. I don't even have to come up with names because it's for in the story, which that's always the hardest part for me is coming up with names.
I like stories as well. And so one of my books is actually on ancient Egypt and in lace and color. It started with me reading this article that said that in ancient Egypt, they really used 6 different colors, and the 6 different colors had different symbolism. So black, for example, which today we make with, I don't know, death or sorrow or something like that, was fertility. And green really was death in ancient Egypt. And I thought it would be really fun to design a bunch of shawls based on, those 6, and so 2 of each color, and then find ancient Egyptian mythology or mythological stories that would fit in with these different themes from the different colors. And so stories really do, it's a way to, I don't know, create the design and make the design move forward. And it's easier to name them too. Totally right about that.
What was the name of the book? And we'll have that written down in the...
It's the Ancient Egypt. Looks like this. It's from Cooperative Press. It's also on Ravelry.
Can you get that in the comments? Ancient Egypt in lace
and color. Yep.
Awesome. Who else wants to jump in there? What inspires you?
I was going to say, that's hard to follow.
Yes, you go first. You follow her.
Gosh, I have to admit, it's been really hard lately because of the terms that we've been living in now. Obviously, when you're isolated, it makes it much harder, at least for me, to come up with designs and be inspired. Because I'm working and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, it can be what's in the garden for the day. It can be the pattern of the carpet in a hotel I happen to be staying in. Lots of different trigger for me is inspiration. A lot of it, though, tends to be textural. So if I happen to see a pattern or texture design, I take a photo or I sketch out how my mind interprets it so that I keep that inspiration to move forward with it.
For me, I get a lot of inspiration from nature. You'll see a lot of leaves and flowers in my knitting. My most recent design, which isn't even out yet, it's being test knit, but it has been tech edited, dye shawl, and it's based on a time-lapse photograph of the sky where you get those star trails because of the time-lapse photo. And I've been thinking about this for a year and a half, and finally make it happen. So for me, it's not that yarn speaks to me. Usually there's an idea first, and then I have to go find the right yarn to make it happen. And as far as beads go, then I think, where can I put the beads in? Jazz this up with that little bit extra. So for most of this particular shawl, there's not a place for beads, but right along that dark border at the bottom, there's a little lace pattern, and it's the perfect place to add beads.
Yes, I'm kind
Yeah,
of.
I have to say, Jean, the other thing that I do from designing is I'm a challenge designer. I love the challenge of, here's the amount of yarn I'm giving you, and what are you going to do with it? So the perspective of the person who would be purchasing it later. So I hate it when they tell you get 3 skeins, but you only use like 100 yards of the last skein and you have everything left over. So I really try to meet the goal of what's the best thing I can do with this amount of yarn to create the most fabulous thing I can that people are inspired to do. So I really enjoy the challenge.
I have a lot of that with the kits, because it's like, you have this 1 skein of yarn. So we're like the opposite. You have to check gauge. Or we're trying to teach crocheters to actually check gauge. Because if you don't, you might run out of yarn if you're working in a kit.
One of the comments says, what do you have as tips for beginners in design? They're just starting to design. They want some tips from you people.
Well, that depends on what you want to do with it. Anybody who wants to do it for themselves, you can be a designer. If you want to get into the business to sell your designs, it doesn't hurt to get a mentor. It doesn't hurt to remember then that you are a business and treat yourself like a business, which means you want to make sure you have a good product. I recommend tech editors. They save me more than anything else, so that they are actually going through my patterns to make sure they're accurate. And so those are some tips I would suggest.
Other people.
Now, Laurinda, I know that you've been overseeing the professional development side and the mentor coordinator for CGOA, so at least we have that within Crochet.
Yeah. The Crochet Guild of America has a professional development program. You can sign up as a member, as a professional or associate professional member. You can get a mentor through the mentorship program, and you can indicate what area you're interested in focusing in, and we'll try to match you up with a mentor that can help you get there, whether you want to sell to magazines or write a book or all those.
What's the website for the Crochet Guild?
Crochet.org.
There you go. That's easy.
Yeah.
What about you,
Hi,
Michele?
Alasdair.
Hello.
Hi, Alasdair.
Hi, Alasdair. Oh, hi, Alasdair.
So the other thing that you need to think about when you're designing, going to make your heart sing, is this just to make you happy, or do you have to think about what would be easier to write up so that I can sell it without 20 pages of instruction? Find the process and make it doable and repeatable.
Yes, but for me, I think that it has to make my heart sing, because if it doesn't make me, then how can I possibly sell it to someone else? So the design has to be just so, and sometimes that will include a little bit more of instructions just to make it. Will agree on that as well. I mean, what he does and how his instructions are.
Alasdair,
You want the challenge, I like that challenge.
Yeah.
Of this and make it look good and be explainable in a way that doesn't make people's eyes cross.
Yes, absolutely. It has to be understandable as well.
Alasdair, you want to take a minute? The comments was tips for beginner designers. Do you have any?
Ooh. It's been a while since I was a beginner designer, so I had to think about that. Talk to more experienced designers. I guess that's what you're doing right now, right? So by way of introduction, I'm Alasdair Post-Quinn. Sorry, I was distracted just a moment ago. Somebody was sending me messages and it was making little notification beeps, and I know that that's audible over here, so I need to silence it. So anyway, my company is Falling Blox Designs. I specialize in double knitting, pretty much any kind of double knitting you have seen or haven't seen before I'm doing it. Let's see, tips for beginner designers. You know, don't be afraid to go and look at lots of other patterns out there. See what other people are doing, have done. See what you like in the way that they're talking about things, both from books and free patterns on Ravelry, and you know, find stuff you like and mimic it. Don't steal it, but you know, take the things that you like from what other people are doing, and use that those methods to help make your stuff more accessible. Yeah.
So what do you like the best, for all of you, just jump in, what do you like best about designing with beads?
It adds an extra sparkle that you can't find any other way. The other thing I like too is sometimes it adds a little extra weight that I need for a design so that it drapes the way I want it to.
Those are exactly the two things, sparkle and drape.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps a little bit more interest as well, because I mean, I do a lot of lace patterns, and after a while, you know, there are only so many diamonds, for example, you can do, and so many leaves you can do. It's fun to change it up a little bit and throw in a few beads here and there.
Yeah, that's my take on it as well. You know, the stuff that I do, I've only done a little bit in beads so far. I'm looking forward to doing more. I've done quite a bit of double net lace, and so you know, while the one double knit piece that I have out with Bead Biz now, with beads in it, isn't a lace piece, I can absolutely see using more beads with the next double knit lace piece I do. So looking forward to playing with that. And of course, with a two layered thing, I can use two different colors of beads to accent things in different ways. So
I think I like the challenge of experimenting, figuring out how to make it look just how I want it to look in the, so trying different ways of adding the beads in different parts of the stitches to see to get the look that you want.
So how do you decide which method to use? I mean, you can use an add-as-you-go method, or we can pre-string the beads. How do you pick that?
Again, it's down to how you want it to lay in the stitch.
Well, for me, it will never be pre-string the beads, because I usually knit and design as I go. And so if I pre-string it, how do I possibly know how many beads to pre-string? And I'm not about to pre-string 2,000 beads either. That does not seem like fun. So I will always add as you go.
And I will always add as you go also. There's no way I'm pre-stringing beads.
For me, it depends on the design. There's sometimes where I know that all the beads are grouped in an area. That's where I'm pre-stringing, because it just takes too much time to set them when I can just crochet them right onto where I need it. But yeah, 2,000 is a lot. Your yarn doesn't always like that. So you have to kind of be cautious on that. It kind of depends on the design. So obviously, if I'm preloaded, the beads are early in the work. If it's throughout, it kind of depends.
I think crocheters tend to pre-string a little bit more than knitters, probably. It sounds like it from the knitters.
Well, it's easier when we rip back.
Yeah.
If we rip back and it's pre-strung, they're flying across the room. So it's not even a pre-strung.
It's not pre-strung, they fly across the room.
Right. Non-pre-strung, when we rip back, they're flying across the room because you've may have forgotten where it was in that stitch.
The trick to that is to take your piece that you're about to frog parts of and stick it in a big bowl, and then all the beads will be collected in there. And then, you know, when you've ripped back about as far as you want, then you take up your piece and you shake it off a little bit, and then you put it flat, and then you pick up all the stitches again.
It's not a bowl, it's a Ziploc bag.
Oh, yeah.
Because they really do, because it's so easy to rip back crochet when you're frogging. You can let out your frustrations while ripping back pieces, and you really will have a shower show throughout the house. Just speaking from experience.
Oh, I'm just saying, you know, not like anyone has ever tried this before, of course. We know. Right? We're all full of ideas. If I
I think with are thicker, that it really can depend if you want one strand or two to be running through the bead. That's where you're going to decide if it's pre-strung or not. It just depends on where it is.
Well, in my limited, admittedly limited experience, I did actually try both methods, and I used in the end hooking them on as well. The reason that I did it though is because if you string them on, you end up with the beads sort of hanging on bars between stitches, and or potentially. But if your piece is too layered, you need to make sure that the beads show up on one face and not hanging in between the two layers. Or, you know, for a big lace piece like Anna's stuff, it doesn't matter so much. It's visible on both sides. It doesn't matter if the bead is in the middle because it's visible either way. But for me, it's got to show up on one face or the other or both. And so it gives me more control over exactly where I put it.
And that's interesting because crochet lends itself a little differently, because if we pre-string, when set a bead, it always goes to the back of the stitch. So you know it's always going to be on the wrong side of your work. So that makes it easy for us to know that. Where when we set it, we can have control over which way it goes.
I will say that in knitting more than crochet, you get two distinct looks when you pre-string something versus when you add as you go. So if you pre-string something in a knit piece, you are necessarily making the hole horizontal in the work. So if you look at this piece, you can see that really clearly, that the string that's on one leg of the stitch and all those holes are running this way through that set of beads. If you add it as you go, you're putting it on both legs of the stitch. And if you can see it in this, you should be able to. You can see that somebody put this beautiful thing on backward. Not that I'm saying anything. My happy helper who put it on backward. Here, I'll just hold it.
Here, while you're doing that, I'll just show you.
Oh, look, there's a nice close-up. Show them how it goes, the hole goes up and down. There you go. That's a much better close-up than I
So
can
this
get.
is add as you go, and the beads are horizontal across the work. And if you pre-string, then the beads will be vertical. And so this is the only way I've ever done it, because I'm not ready to pre-string anything. I don't know in advance what I need.
That's the design that she and I did. I did a crochet version that looks almost exactly the same, and yet I pre-strung for those because
The crochet version.
that's the opposite,
The knit version.
the same, but pre-strung. It's different.
Now, what you can do with the pre-stringing method in knitting and in crochet is you can drop more than one bead at a time. And if you can drop, I'm trying to find a crochet like that. I don't know if I can get this up to the camera. Maybe bring this closer to the camera, please. Helpful friend. And then you get beads that sort of, in crochet, you can get them to lay right on top of the work.
Closer,
Beads on top.
The green glove might be easier because it's got the white beads instead of the crystal.
Yeah.
Green glove, I have that.
Beads that are clustered together, so you have more than one, so you get a different textural effect.
So it's going to lay on top of the work in crochet or knit. Somebody asked, do you prefer to bead the stitch before or after you work the stitch?
Depends on where you want it.
Yes, it depends. That's the good answer.
So does somebody want to speak to the two different effects that it gives? If you do it before you knit through or crochet through or after?
I tend to do it after, so I'm on it. And the reason for that is that in terms of charting it, if I'm charting the lace, then it shows you on which stitch the bead is sitting. Otherwise, the bead would be sitting on the stitch in the row below.
Crochet is a little different because you can put during the stitch. I don't know what you find, Laurinda.
Yeah, just depends on where I want it to sit.
So just to be clear about what Anna was saying, if you're knitting along and I knit a stitch and then put a bead on it, I knit the stitch, there I have the stitch, it's the new row that I'm knitting and there's the bead. if I put the bead on and then knit the stitch, I've knit a new stitch on top of the bead. It's going to be one row down from the working row, just to be clear on that answer for you. So what's your favorite thing to design? I know, Anna, it's shawls for you. What is your favorite thing, object to design? Shawls, socks, hats, scarves, small
Socks
stuff.
are out. Socks are out.
Those socks.
A little of everything.
But I have to say, you said socks. There's no way I'm doing crocheting 2 socks. That's it. Okay, so that's done. But
Putting
but
beads on them.
yeah.
Well, then what do you like? What do you like to design? What's your favorite thing to do?
It depends on the mood, depends on the weather, depends on the day.
And for me,
Probably
it's
hats for me.
Anyone have a hands down favorite?
remember, gauge not critical.
Alasdair, do you have a hands down favorite type of thing to design?
Probably hats. I mean, just looking at my my repertoire of stuff. Often what I'm doing is I'm playing with a new technique, and a hat is a convenient way to get a new technique out there in the world and not require an immense amount of investment in it. You know, you don't need to do an entire sweater or shawl or whatever just to learn a technique, which isn't to say that I haven't done those things, but I also just love playing with hat crowns, like the fascinating ways that the color work that I do plays into the decreases and interesting things to do with it. I wish I had some to show you, but you know, yeah.
Yeah. Well, in case you don't know, unfortunately, Alasdair suffered a house fire. Actually, his entire condo complex burned to the ground. So he is sadly still waiting to get in there to see if he can salvage anything at all. So
it was all fortunately in like I live in a basement, so it was mostly water and smoke damage, and all of my samples are in sealed in Ziploc bags in watertight bins. It's very likely I'm going to get some of it back, but I don't know. So for the moment, I got nothing.
I will add that no people or pets were harmed in the production of this fire.
Except possibly our fish. We don't anticipate that our fish survived this. Unfortunately.
Almost no pets were harmed in the production of this fire. Sorry about your fish, Alasdair.
It's okay. Little guys.
Well, people are asking, can you add beads to things that don't have them in the design? So somebody went on Rab or went somewhere, found a gorgeous piece, and now they want to put beads in. They want to redo it with beads. How do they do that?
Well, I mean, yes, of course you can is the first answer. Maybe you don't want to for everything. Like, you know, if you're knitting socks, beads on them might not be so comfortable if you're ever planning on, you know, wearing shoes. But the thing is, you know, where do you place them? Well, where would you like them to be? You know, what is it that you're knitting? Are you knitting a sweater? Would you like the beads to be near the hems or near the collar? Or, you know, if you're knitting a shawl, any lace shawl, you could stick beads on it wherever you wanted, but you sort of have to consider the piece from the beginning and say, you know, where do I want these beads? Do I want them near the outer edging? Do I want them near the spine? Then maybe it's not so comfortable when I'm sitting because I'd be leaning against them. I mean, these are all things you have to think about, but yes, you can add beads to anything. You can add them anywhere that you think they belong.
And I can say they're really easy to add to crochet lace. And I always like putting them in the chain spaces because that's the easiest thing that makes crochet lace work anyway. And when you do that, you can see the stitch on both sides in crochet. So it really makes it easy and forgiving. You don't have to think about it as much.
That brings me to another question. Beads should match the yarn or stand out and contrast with the yarn?
I'm a contrast girl. You know, I feel if I'm putting in all the effort to have my beads there, I want you to see them.
And for me, it depends. Do I want just a subtle little sparkle in the same color, maybe just a tiny bit deeper, or do I want it to really stand out? And it depends on what the piece is and how I feel about it. And I'll go through several different bead choices and knit them all in onto a sample before deciding which is the one I want. So more beads, more play.
That was one of the fun things that we had figuring out for the Nymphaea shawl, because there were 7 shades of yarn and 5 shades of beads, and figuring out where they would fit and what would look good the best together. And it's always a fun challenge.
I noticed that when you Laurinda and Michele did that challenge to make the 2 shawls, Michele chose not to put any beads in the bottom iteration. So what would end up being the last color of the 7 with the cast off, but Laurinda chose to definitely put them in there. So all of the sections in Linda's are beaded, but not Michelle's. You could certainly come take this pattern and say, nope, that needs to be beaded. And do it, add it if it makes you happy.
Well, in part that was because the crochet stitches are larger and I hadn't used as many beads, so I had more left.
I was pretty much almost out. And I didn't have enough to do the entire border, and that makes me crazy if it's, half of this lacy edge has beads and half does not. You could try doing it every other, but you'd have to rip out when you find out you do or don't have enough. I just needed to get done.
So there you have it, a dirty designer secret. I just didn't have enough and I wasn't going to mess with it.
I would call it power of a deadline.
Yes.
So you've all designed a lot of different things and in different ways, in different, in either knit or in crochet. If you had to say the most important thing to remember when knitting with or crocheting with beads is what?
Have a good table when you're sitting and knitting, because I find that it doesn't work very well if you're, say, traveling in a car. It's really easy to lose those little things.
Can I just make a little plug for my beading system? Because I have beaded on a sailboat. I was on a boat for a week and I took my beaded shawl with me, and I'm going to show you how I control my beads. Let me get my camera back up. This is a little tin, size of an Altoids tin, and there's a magnet here that holds my bead aid, which is my little beading tool, and I keep just enough beads in a little tiny tube, so you can sprinkle out maybe this many beads, a dozen beads, and that way, if the boat makes a big tip, you might lose a dozen beads, but you don't lose everything. And everything goes back together in a very tidy package, and it's very safe.
All right. So what Michele just showed you is a big eye beading needle. That's one of these. It opens up really, really wide in the middle, and you can use it to pre-string your beads. Or since Michele doesn't pre-string, what she did, I think, was to snip it in the middle.
The company beading makes them like this.
And then they make a V, and you can put them on like that. I have that exact sort of Altoids tin. Mine is a little sheep on the front. If you do that, but you also get a little piece of some sort of rough fabric. What I use, oddly enough, is a little cutout piece of, those things you put in the fridge, in the vegetable drawer, or you put under your rug so your rug doesn't slip. If you cut that out and put it in the other side, you have one in there. Yeah.
This is actually a piece of fun foam, and it works great because I found out that when you're beading in bed, you're knitting and your husband is sleeping next to you, every time you pick it up, it goes. So I put fun foam in the bottom and it's very quiet.
You put in one of those things, either the rug holder or the fruit keeper fresher thing. That's a phrase now. Totally thing now. Fruit keeper fresher thing. It has a little bit of tackiness to it, and then if you do swerve in the car or on the boat, never ever knit or crochet while driving, because I feel like that just instead. You must be the passenger. The other person swerves the boat, or the pilot swerves the boat. Captain swerves the boat. That little bit of roughness will keep the beads from bouncing.
Yes.
And that's always good. Also, on the idea of ripping back, Anna said you rip back into a big bowl. If you line that big bowl with one of those things, or even a terry cloth towel, you will avoid the beads hitting the bowl and then happily bouncing out all over the floor. Now, on the sad side, that will make your cat unhappy if it's like my cat, because if the beads bounce all over the floor, my cat thinks I just splattered a toy on the floor for him personally.
I could show the bead aid since I have it all loaded up for the. I'm working on the crochet version for the crochet Rhinebeck shawl for you, and I just got a new camera to do this. I have the bead aid all loaded up, and so right now I'm only adding beads every 4th row.
Is that the Flegel beater?
This is the Flegel beater. Sorry, yeah, I had thing Flegel beater. What the Bead Biz has, and it's got this tiny little hook on the end. I don't even know if you can see it. Like I said, new camera, because it's the hook's a little bit small, but I feel like as long as you keep the hook facing up and put tension on the yarn, that you can slide it on, and it's less steps than bringing one on each time. I'm all for having them all preloaded as much as possible.
That will also help with the driver swerved and I lost my beads conundrum, because they're held in place on it really nicely.
Yes, exactly.
Those you can also get those on the website, because I should plug my website at this point. You can go to my website, beadbiz.org. All of these lovely kits are available, and someone, I assume, is typing the names of all these beautiful kits, but they're right on the very first page at beadbiz.org. Right there. If any of you want to type in the comments for your web pages or anything, any of my lovely designers, please feel free to type in the comments.
No, they can't. They're on Zoom.
They're on Zoom. They can't type in the comments. I will get one of my minions to type you all in the comments. I have minions.
Well, and Jean, I'd also like to mention, you actually had me work a design without using round beads. Pilgrimage uses those little tubular beads. It's almost a little square. Yeah. So it allows a little different design in the way the stitches worked.
Camera? In a minute, one of my minions will bring this closer to the camera where you can actually see it.
But I mean, usually when we think of beads, we're always thinking of the number 6 or the number 8s. But it's really, you can really get into it with other types of beads too, and it offers a different texture and a different look to the overall piece.
Those are 4mm square beads.
I love those.
We have those in a bunch of colors on the website. Those are Japanese. You want to hold up those. We also have, if you can see on the bottom of this, there's little drops coming off of this piece.
Those are always gorgeous.
I haven't actually used those magatama yet, and those drop beads, and I'm excited to get to the end of what I'm working on to do that.
Those are long magatama drop beads, and they're just so much fun, and they work on the edge. But if you put them in the work, in the body of the work, they hang down on top of the work, so it adds an extra dimension of depth to the work that you're doing. One of my minions is looking confused.
And we have triangles.
Huh?
And we have triangles.
I don't know that I have triangles right here right now. I'm sorry. We also have rounded triangle beads that I don't have right here right now sitting in front of me. Wait, I do. Where is
have any of us designed with the triangles yet?
No, you guys haven't, but Thirsty Cat did. Do you have Thirsty's piece? I did. There, my menu will bring that up to the camera for you to see the triangular beads. So they are rounded triangle beads. So the Japanese do shapes. The squares, the drop beads, and the triangle beads are all Japanese, and they do shapes and they do them really well. The check beads do color, and they're what's behind. Well, you can't really see them because she's hung up 8 million things. The check beads are what's behind me here. If I didn't have every piece I have a designer for, and the checks do colors, and they do colors really, really, really well. That is what they're known for. I'll take a minute and explain. You heard. I think it was Laurinda mentioned size 6 and size 8 beads, or maybe it was Linda. So size 6 beads, most commonly used beads in our industry. They're made by the Czech Republic. They fit everything up to including DK weight. Size 8 beads, they fit everything up to a lace weight yarn. They're probably the second most commonly used bead in our business.
Fit on fingering as well.
They'll do a light fingering.
That's what I used for my sister's wedding dress, was your 8s.
Which is beautiful. So What's the difference between a size 6 and a size 8? Size 6s are larger than a size 8. How do you remember that? 6 in an inch, 8 in an inch. It's really simple. They are not 6 millimeter and they are not 8 millimeter. A 6 millimeter bead would be the size of a garden pea. An 8 millimeter bead would be almost 2 garden peas or 1 garden pea on a hell of a good fertilizer and some steroids. So they are not done by millimeters. They are actually done by how many fit in an inch. The plug for the Japanese size 5 beads, which you saw in the rounded triangles and the squares, those puppies will fit up to a worsted, and even an Aran weight will go through those doubled. So that is their claim to fame. So why don't we do a little bit of show off here. This piece is called Nymphaea. It has seven different colors of yarn and 5 different colors of beads. This one is crocheted and it was designed by Laurinda. It's beautiful. At the same time, we got Linda and Michele together and said, show me that if you knit it, you can crochet it. And if you can crochet it, you can knit it. And they said, okay, sounds fun. So at the same time that was being designed, Michele designed a virtually identical piece knitted. That also has 7 colors of yarn and 5 different beads. We were talking about our Rhinebeck shawls every year at Rhinebeck, including this year, damn it, even if it's virtual. We are going to have our Rhinebeck shawls released. This was from last Rhinebeck. This is called Peace, Love, and Knitting. I took it down, but I don't think I gave you a clue of exactly how big it is. This is by Davli. It is huge. It is circular. This yarn is silk and baby camel. I can't even begin to tell you how soft this is. We were looking at yarns for it. This is hand dyed by white birch fiber. When we were looking at yarns with white birch, she said, oh, let me show you this. And she took out the silk and baby camel and she put it in our hands and we melted. And we said, okay, let's use that. And then she told us what it cost. And we said, I'm sorry, I've touched it now. So we're going to have to go with that because I just want to take all of this home and put it in the bathtub and get naked and not come out.
Laurinda has
really ever. Laurinda knows this because she has some in her hands right now. So she's just like, oh my God, I know what that feels like. It is awesome stuff. I would love to show you Alasdair's hat. You can see it on the website. It is on the front page of the website. You can look down in the comments, and the website is down there. Unfortunately, Alasdair did not have time to get us a sample before the fire. So he is currently lacking a sample and we're lacking a sample. But you can trust us that it's beautiful. You want to talk about what it looks like, Alasdair?
Sure. It's part of a series of hats that I call the Wuxing 5 Elements collection. And it's the only one that's out at the moment. The hope was that the second element would be out by now, but it hasn't happened, obviously. This one's for the element of fire, and what I'm doing is a technique I call off-the-grid double knitting, which just uses sort of a tongue-in-cheek way of talking about decorative increases and decreases in double knitting. Essentially what I've done is I've made these little flame motifs, and you can look at those on Bead Biz's website. The heavy increases that happen at the base of those flames create this sort of cut effect, but it also spreads out the central column so that there's this ladder. So as you come to the top of that little ladder, and after you're done with the increases, you just bead the ladder. You just run 5 beads up the ladder with a crochet hook or the bead hook, and then you keep going. And so the beads are actually only applied every, I want to say, 12 rows or rounds. So every time you reach that section, you run 5 beads up it. You run 5 beads up it on the back as well, 2 different sets of beads. For this one, for the one that I did in the sort of flame color and then a gray color for flame and smoke, the beads are sort of a sparkly red for embers and then a matte black for charcoal. So Bead Biz has lots of kits with lots of different choices on that, on those colors. So, you know, you can go with what I chose or go with something else. Have fun with it.
And then I have this from Linda Dean. So we asked Linda Dean to make us something beautiful. And we gave her 3 spools of this really, really nice Linkatex out of England. It's a sort of stretchy, let's see if I can show you, it's stretchy yarn. And she did this beautiful Tunisian crochet shawl. See the back of that. And it is gorgeous, and it is all beaded. And when the knitters saw it, they got insanely jealous and very upset, and they said they had to have it. So I went to Linda and I said, Linda, can you knit it? And she said, I'm not really a knitter, but I'm going to give it a whirl. She did. It was actually kind of funny because when she brought it in, she said, I don't know. It's very spider webby and loose, and it's not tight and controlled like the other one. And she and Esther said, oh, yeah. And I was like, that is the most awesome thing ever. I love it. Look, it looks like a spider web. This is great. It's so like off the grid. It's perfect. And people love it.
You wouldn't take it off. She wore it the whole time.
I did not take it off. I said, it's mine now and I'm wearing it. And I wear a lot of clothes actually, because look, look at this thing. This is awesome. Who would say no to this? Look at this thing. I'm gonna come out. I'm going to stand over here because now I have it on. This awesome. Look at this. Look at the awesomeness that is this thing. Look at that. It's like huge, and it's got these great big holes in it. And beads on it. It's like wearing a spider web. All right, and I will admit here to sort of having a thing for spiders. I kind of, spiders and snakes. I don't know what that says about me. Spiders, snakes, sharks, and gorillas. Take that whatever you will.
So this just goes into how designing can happen by accident.
She also designed, we had these gloves that another designer of ours, Dana Fittis-Freed, did. These little fingerless mitts, and they are adorable. And my crocheters came and said, why don't we have fingerless mitts? We need fingerless mitts. Why did the knitters get fingerless mitts? So I went to Linda and I said, hey, Linda, they're complaining at me, fix it. And she did fix it with these adorable little fingerless crocheted mitts. So it was really nice. How much my time doing? So that was really, really cool. And that's one of the ways that I really like collaborating with people, is that we end up talking and seeing what do we want out of this, whether it's just a vague idea. Here on a Think Rhinebeck, Think for Rhinebeck 50th anniversary of Woodstock. Now go. Or here, I wanted to show me that knit and crochet really aren't all that different, even though people say it looks completely different. It's not right. No, it can be virtually the same. Or like I like to doodle, Linda. Here's what you get. Here's what you're making. Come back with me with something gorgeous, and you get a glove or a piece. Also from Linda, we have the pilgrimage shawl. I'm gonna take this off and show you. It's got 2 base colors and 2 contrasting colors. And this is the one that has those awesome square beads.
Yeah, and it's actually using a 2 spools of gradient yarn. Yep. So you start with the darker color on one gradient and the lighter color on the other when you're working the striping. So that's what gives you the color differences. And there's actually 2 different colored beads to go along with that.
Yep, the beads pull in the other color to the other side. Mm-hmm. I was totally prepared not to like it, because it was like, oh, I don't know. It won't be symmetrical. It won't be the same. It won't be a gradient. What am I going to do with that? And I saw it. I was like, hey, this is really awesome. I like it a lot. So it was kind of cool to see somebody else's design take me out of my comfort zone in what I think of as an okay way to design something. That, you know how you can just do that and it can be okay. And you can say you like it even. I'm going to remind you that we're probably running low on time. So if you have questions, drop them in the bottom. How are we doing on our time?
Ask another question.
All right, so we have time for one more question. Do we have any of the things, or should I pull one of mine questions? Oh, let me think of a good question here. Oh, we'll do that one. So we have with us tonight 5 amazing designers. Who do you swoon over? What designers currently are you like, fangirling or fanboying over, going, "Oh my God, did you see what they did? It's amazing."
Well, after hearing everyone's stories, I've got a few new ones from today.
I was just going to say Alasdair. I always think Alasdair stuff is really cool and amazing. I know now that you're here, it's a little more awkward than last time when you weren't around, but I'll say your name again anyway, because I think it's really cool and it's different and it's exploring new things within knitting that you don't see everywhere. And I mean, sometimes, I mean, for sure, there's something to be said for using more perhaps established techniques or whatever that people know what they are. But what Alasdair is doing is not that. It's, you know, okay, here's a thing that you can do. I wonder what else weird thing I can do with it. And I think it's really cool to see what he comes up with. There you go.
Yeah, I definitely get inspired by all the knitters because I'm not much of a knitter. I understand enough just to get myself in trouble. So it creates new ideas for me. But Laurinda has always done great work. I mean, some of her reversible crochet has been incredible. And the sister's wedding dress, if you have not gone to her blog and found it, it's stunning work. So there's a lot of creative people out there. It's just you have to take the time to take a look.
Yeah, definitely inspiration from knitters. And that's what Linda and I think got started right around the same time. And both of us, because we were doing things a little different than what everyone else was doing. And somebody noticed. And,
and that's how we started.
Yep. And a lot of times it's, well, we see that thing in knit and we're just not much of knitter. So how can we do that in crochet?
How about you, Michele? Who you swooning over these days?
I am really enjoying sweater knitters or sweater designers because I don't design sweaters. It's way more math than I want to do myself. And so right now I'm wearing Tin Can Knits Love Note sweater, and I am currently knitting the third one because so simple, so easy to knit, makes me really happy, and I have something to wear when I'm teaching.
Alasdair, who are you swooning over these days?
I mean, probably the name that always comes to mind first, Zandy Peters, Foxpaws, and the like. We actually, you know, when we show up at the same show, we're always talking bleeding edge knitting stuff because that's what we specialize in. You know, weird directions that knitting can be taken in that nobody else is really doing anything about. So, you know, my hope is that I mean, of course, whenever I see an interesting technique in single layer knitting, my immediate reaction is, can I double knit that? So at some point, I'm going to try to figure out if I can do stacked stitches and double knitting. I don't really know if it's going to be possible. It's not going to look exactly like what Zandy does, but it's possible. I'm sure I can at least do something with that. So you know, I love seeing anyone, you know, anyone who is really pushing the envelope on what's possible. And Zandy's just the first one that comes to mind.
Awesome. I want to thank you all for hanging out with us for a while and chatting and offering your wisdom and your expertise and being so witty.
And Jean, I want to say thank you for inviting me because this really does even help inspire me to get back into doing some other stuff. I love the inspiration just from talking to everybody else. So thanks for including me in this.
Ditto.
Cool. So are you going to make us a new thing?
Yeah, we can talk some yarn and some beads. That's fine.
I can talk yarn and beads.
All right.
I'm going to make one more plug for the knit along. The knit along, there'll be a link on our website a little later on today or tomorrow. Just down in the comments, I'm told. The knit along is to make this lovely shawlette with a beaded cast on, and there's an optional beaded bind off. There will be fun, there'll be prizes, there'll be a Facebook group and a Ravelry group, and a sip and knit where you can have the beverage of your choice provided by you, your own home, away from me. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and it will have 2 classes with me. At the beginning of the knit along, I'm going to teach you how to do the beaded cast on, and at the end I'll teach you to do the beaded bind off, and damn it, you will learn it whether you beaded bind off or not. And that is the shawl, and that will wrap it up for us. Thank you so much again for being here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Some questions, just drop them down there and we'll get an answer to you as soon as we can. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.